Hello everyone, David here, MixBus TV. Here we go with another full-length, start-to-finish mixing course. This time around, by popular demand, is EDM. In this video course, we will break down this dance song called Minstry and we'll see the entire process, start to finish. We will learn how to mix punchy, hard-hitting, focused kick drums, how to gel it with a deep and big bass. We will see how to create depth and width with synths, and of course, how to mix vocals and effects. We will break down the processing both for plugins and hardware with all the settings for individual tracks, groups, and of course, tubas. Part of this course is going to be free for everybody on YouTube. If you want to see the entire course and access all the other mix and mastering courses, click the join button, become a MixBus TV member, and truly step up your mix and mastering game. Let's get started. All right, like we said earlier, we have two basses. The first one is this. I like the sound. There's not much that is needed here. A little bit of drive, a small cut around 800, and a little bit of compression. This is how we sound. But my processing for this was to copy this track and do a whole different thing with it. Before seeing that, let's take a listen to the main bass, the low bass. And this is gonna be interesting. This is the sound with nothing on it. And this is my processing with console one. All right, so what do I want from this bass? Only the low end, only the sub energy. The low mid range there does nothing for me. I rather use that space, so to speak, for all the synths, for other things in the mix. And at the same time, not only I'm cutting the top end and the mid range of this, but I'm compressing pretty heavily and adding a little bit of drive. This way, this deep low end is steady already, and it feels the sub range of the song. When I add the top bass, this is how they sound together. We have two more processing on the top bass. One is Ozone Maximizer Multiband, and as you can see, I'm just using this to add more harmonics in the high mid range. Very subtle. And second, the V76, kind of a Neumann emulation to add a little more grunt to that top synth bass, because I love the sound, yet it's a little flat. Let me solo it with and without these two, the two saturators. How it hits harder, like especially the transient, it's more punchy and it doesn't get swallowed by the deep low end. And this was a cool sound. I don't like to stop a cool. So I copied the top bass and I used one of my favorite plugins of all time and one of my so to speak, dirty secrets, which is the 1210 by TC Electronic. And I basically did two things with this copy of a track. I glued the two basses together and I made them stereo. Of course, I didn't copy the low bass and did the same, because that low end needs to be dead center and powerful in the mono channel. But it feels like it, right? It feels like it because in this case, I usually use the spatial expander mute in the direct because especially if I copy the track, I don't want to interfere with the dry track. But in this case, the top synth is already an accessory of my bass. So I don't care. There's no risk of phase relationship because my low end is all in the low bass. So I can have all the fun in the world with these two tracks and make it as wide as I want. Now, just to give you an idea, listen to this, only this track, only my created stereo effects with the 1210. Listen to the huge difference that it makes in the song itself.
Yeah, I see you, you don't see me. The sky has gone, turned its back on me. Into your eyes that shine an emerald green, and into your lungs that breathe bittersweet.
I think it's pretty crazy. It's like 40% of the vibe, the feeling, this wide and clubby feeling that this track has, like 40% of it is this bass track that I created that just fills up the space, and I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, these were our basses. I had, as you can see, a bass parallel setup, which I didn't use, but on the bass out, we have some processing. So let's take a look. Nothing on console one. I use all the saturation and the EQ and compression individually, so there's nothing there, but I did add max bass, which again helps translating this bass on smaller speakers. It gives me a little more density and harmonics. Okay, I exaggerated the settings so you can hear where is the range where this plugin grabs. And then again, this is one of my favorite plugins. I said over and over, I use this one for the low end saturation and a little bit of top here. You can see the settings. Normally I would use my Drummer 1976 for this, the multiband saturator, which is what I use in other songs for the same artist for the album. But I felt like this was, for some reason, was working better for this. I particularly like, this is very tricky, not many plugins can add saturation in this really low range, and the Ozone Exciter is one of the few that I really like, and it does it very well. As you can hear though, based on what notes are being played by the bass, we have still dynamic swings, and I don't really want that from my bass, synth bass especially. So the Nova comes to rescue here. Okay, you hear it, right? So there's a couple of notes that really pop out too much. Nova keeps the entire range under control, and you will hear, well, but you have a little less low end. Yes, I do, but we don't have the two bus engaged. And when we engaged all that, things are gonna change because the Neve add so much low end, and also we have the HG2 with the parallel saturation set in low. The low end is gonna come back. So these are kind of preventive moves to what's happening in the low end, even though I set my two bus at the beginning. So the way it goes chronologically in a mix, I set my machines and then the bass is jumping even more because there's low end enhanced in the two bus. And then I feel the need to keep it under control, okay? And now you will see the processing that are in this second row of inserts. And when they are there, it means that I did them later on in the mix, because that's how I kind of keep track visually of what I do and when I do what. And if something needs to be adjusted or something was better before, I know at what time and why I did certain things. Like for example, this second max bass, you can see is full harmonic in this case. It's simply because I want it, probably after the Nova, keeping the dynamic down to boost that range and give me more harmonics there. Just simply fatter, that's it. okay? That's all that it is. A little cut here at 126 because it was building up with the rest. Right now you won't probably hear much of a difference, but when all the mix is there, especially with the kick drum. Let's play the kick drum here. Not that much difference, but it clashes a little bit. I play the kick drum because the next processing is, of course, the sidechain of this bass to the kick drum. As you can see, I don't sidechain the whole thing. I still want the mid-range and the top end and all the wide part of the bass to keep playing. I don't really like the super crazy seasick effect of the sidechain. So I'm sidechaining only the sub-range, which is why we were able to give the kick the little bit of sub-energy that we gave it earlier. And it kind of creates this movement, which is very cool. And that you need to pay attention to where you set the release. We don't have milliseconds here, so it's all by ear. Just start fast with it and slow it down to the point that you start feeling the groove and start moving with it. And we have our kick and drum together. And now we start with the synths. Well, if you are on YouTube and you're not a member, the video stops here, but you can click the join button down here, become a MixBuzz TV member, access this and all the other mix and mastering courses. But even if you don't and you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please consider using the super thanks. Support the channel, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, stay safe, and see you next time.
Hands on my neck, hands grip my throat, lift me up.